the heart and soul behind every business. Stories. Welcome to Business Story of the Week, hosted by me, Joshua Laurie. From setbacks to comebacks, from tragedies to triumphs, we inspire entrepreneurs through conversations that matter. Witness the magic that turns dreams into reality. Whether it's your career, business, or life, your success is always one story away. This is Business Story of the Week.
Good morning. I'm Julia Langley, and I am so excited to be on the Business Story of the Week.
Fantastic. That is Julia Langley, ladies and gentlemen. Well, of course, starting us off with sparkles and bedazzles and all that energy. My goodness, Julia Langley. And of course, my name is Joshua. I am your host for today and every other day and every other episode. We ask you a question. And today's question is, what does it take to turn stage fright into stage might? Well, there, our guest for today, Julia, is the perfect guest to answer that question. Julia Langley is an international speaker, best-selling author, and coach with over 15,000 hours of stage experience with Cirque du Soleil in 20 countries. She has over a decade of experience in enhancing stage presence, has appeared on major US TV networks, and has written and directed 14 original stage plays. Fascinating, fantastic. Julia is dedicated to helping ambitious speakers conquer their fear and nervousness, transforming them into confident and impactful performers. And today, Julia is going to be sharing her insight, her experience, and her lovely energy with us today. Julia, thank you so much for being on the show. How are you doing?
I am wonderful. I'm having it's morning here in the States, so I'm very excited to be on here with you and to talk about something that I'm actually very passionate about because it affects, what we're talking about affects 15 million people every single day.
Wow.
That's the number one fear in the world, right up there with spiders, the creepy crawlies. So,
Okay, we're going to talk about that real deep, and we need to ask what that fear is. But before we get into that question, Julia, I always start off the show like this. What was the young Julia Langley like? Did the young Julia Langley always think she was going to get into Cirque du Soleil? What would the young Julia say to the Julia of today?
Not to hold yourself back. The young Julia would, we learn to conform as we get older. We have all these pressures on us from society, from friends, from school, from our jobs. And what happens is somewhere along the way, we learn tricks that aren't necessarily helpful to us. We tuck ourselves in. We start to become a version of who we think we're supposed to be to fit into society. And I did it. I speak from experience because I did it. The young Julia was audacious. I hung off the top of my swing set by my feet, and I was just an explorer. And that part of my personality is still there. Some things don't change, but I just hid it because I thought, to be professional, you have to hide it, or to be accepted as credible, that you have to push all these things way back down and be serious all the time. And it's simply not the case. I just wound up being an inauthentic version of myself because I didn't allow who I really was to show through. I had to relearn it.
Of course, that's something that we always go through, like as children, we have that enthusiasm, that energy, that wide-eyed wonder, just like wanting to do everything. We love everything in the world. And something happens along the way as we grow up as adults where that magic just disappears. Or more importantly, we're told to hide that magic away, hide that enthusiasm away. Julia, of course you are right now a very, very, all out there. Julia Langley is now the all out there, and the performer that you are today, and of course the author, the speaker, this version of Julia Langley has found her way again in the world. What was that pivotal moment where you decided, okay, I'm not going to let people hold me back, and I'm going to be who I am?
Well, I've always been a little bit of working on the outer edge. Okay. My mom
Mm.
always called it pushing the envelope a little bit. So I have always done that. But what I discovered in my work is that working with people on fear and stage fright has a lot to do with confidence. And I realized early on working with people that if I was going to teach confidence, that I had to be confident myself. These are very subtle things in our personality that we often don't recognize that we're doing that give off these signs.
Mm.
Truly, I thought I was fearless and confident, but I wasn't. I was tucking myself in.
Wow.
And that it was a moment for me. I was like, here I am touting myself to be confident and authentic and helping others. And I am not being true to that myself. So I
Right.
really stepped back from it and I started doing a lot of internal work.
Right.
And it was really eye-opening for me when I started to realize, those things that I had put down about myself. And along the way, probably others, oh, you're bossy, as a kid,
Right.
when somebody told you you're bossy, you
Mm.
really internalize those things. But
Right.
you have to, and they're going to happen to you. So it's up to us what we do with them, So
Of
that
course.
was really awakening for me the day I realized here I am thinking I'm this and this and this. And I wasn't evolved at all.
Right. Wow. Well,
Yeah.
Julia, it's quite the struggle as well, but it's quite a journey too to undergo, like losing yourself, rediscovering yourself. But Julia,
Yes.
talk to us a little bit about your Cirque du Soleil career. I mean, carrying all of this with you, you must have had self-doubts along the way, but you were incredibly successful in your career. And you said like you were talking about fears earlier, like fears of maybe fears of not being enough, but also this fear of like am I holding myself back? But Cirque du Soleil requires a type of performance where you don't hold yourself back. Talk to us about
Right.
that career, where you were at, where personally or internally, where you felt like, did you feel like you were holding yourself back? But how did you translate that into a performance that you are supposed to go all out? Talk to us about your career at Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah, this is a great question, especially as a performer. And it was an evolution, again, another evolution for me
Mm-hmm.
as a performer because when I first started, and I remember before I even actually, it was during my Cirque career because I was doing different contracts. I
Right.
went and
Okay.
did an audition for a musical theater event, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember the director coming to me and saying, "Stop! You need to unbutton your chest, unbutton your vest." And I was like,
Okay.
yeah, again, I was like, I'm fine. I mean, but the truth
Uh-huh.
was, I was holding myself back. So this was even working for
Right.
Cirque. I caught myself doing it as a performer, trying
Mm-hmm.
to fit a mold of what I thought somebody else wanted. And
Mm-hmm.
so that I had enough talent and I had enough skill to get in, but it was a really big learning curve for me in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning because
Mm-hmm.
I was playing it very safe, playing it very
Right.
close to my chest. So the big thing with that was learning how to relax into a performance because
Mm-hmm.
if you're uptight and you're really holding on too tight in a performance, those small, subtle, genius things that you have within you aren't allowed to come out, right? So
Yes.
you're
Yes.
working, you're operating in this little sphere of comfort, right?
Yes.
But
Mm-hmm.
what that means is that you're holding it in.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned from that when I relax, I got a way better I had a way better response from my
Of
audience.
course.
So it was
Yes.
really an experiment on my part,
Mm-hmm.
where I had to learn what worked and what didn't work, and
Right.
then I went from there. Now it was a learning curve for me. So what I try to do when I work with people is shorten that learning curve for them, and tell them these things so that they don't have to have the growing pains that I had. But, it's all part of the experience. So I don't really
Absolutely.
regret any of it, but it was definitely part of the learning of how to relax into a performance and how to let that genius that you have within you, that personality
Uh-huh.
that they chose you for to start with,
Uh-huh.
let it shine on
I
stage.
love that. I love that. It's almost like there's a reason where you are at, why you are at where you are at right now. Like there's a reason, like people chose you. People saw something inside you, and people just want to see that as well. People want you to flourish, but most oftentimes it's us that hold ourselves back, right? We think we want to please people, or standards that we feel like we want to meet, and of course we are not enough. Julia, I want to now circle back to the fear that we were talking about. You
Right.
talked about a fear that affects people, 15 million people around the world, right next to spiders. Julia, talk to us about what kind of fear is that, and is this something that you dealt with yourself, and I feel like it's something that you're helping others to overcome as well. Talk to us about that. What is that fear, Julia?
Well, it's definitely all interconnected, all right,
Mm-hmm.
because we tuck ourselves in because of this fear that we're talking
Yes.
about. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it be a fear of being judged, a fear of making a mistake, a fear of not
Right.
being good, it all goes back to not being enough,
Uh-huh.
whatever you're claiming that fear to be. Yeah. And I
Mm-hmm.
went through it too. People look at the evolution of my career and they think, oh, she's fearless. Well, maybe at this point in my life I am, but it
Mm-hmm.
has been, it's hard won, right? You
Right.
don't just go through life with no fear at all. And especially when you start opening yourself up to
Right.
criticisms, to being judged. And you will, if you're in the public eye, this is what's going to happen. What's important is that you learn that you're special. My favorite line is this: your freak is your fabulous. Okay. So it's usually
Uh-huh.
those things that we don't like in ourselves are
Right.
the thing that makes us stand out the most. So it's
I
really
love that.
learning to embrace who you
Uh-huh.
are.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then you can learn the techniques
Mm-hmm.
to show that
Mm-hmm.
that embodiment of
I see.
who you really are to the world.
Right.
And that's what makes the excellent performer, is
Right.
when you're able to not just understand yourself, but really show it through whatever it is, whether you're singing or
Mm-hmm.
whether you're speaking at a
Mm-hmm.
corporate event.
Yes.
So that fear is ultimately from just not. Somewhere along the way, we learned that we weren't good enough about something, whether it be
That's it.
shut up, whether it be get
Uh-huh.
out of chorus, or whatever it may be. So
The
yeah,
fear of being
it's
not being good
massive.
enough. It's
That's right.
massive. We learn it along the way. It's almost like it was, instead of being taught to that you are enough, we almost learn that we pick it up along the way that you are not good enough, in fact, and we
Right.
start ingraining that into our heads, and we just start holding ourselves back because some people are probably better at stage than I am. Some people probably needs to take this step instead of me because I'm just not good enough for it. It's what a massive fear. It's everyone. It's a very relatable fear. All of us go through it. All of us take on it. And like you said, Julia, it's crossing that fear that allows us to just perform, you know, out of bounds, out of without limits, and also embracing your uniqueness. Your freak is your fabulous. I love that, by the way. You just embrace your uniqueness because you are enough. What makes you unique, what makes you weird, what makes you odd, you embrace that fear because you are good enough no matter what people tell you. And it's a very common fear. But Julia, how do you now teach others to overcome this fear? Why do you think it's so difficult? And how have you come to conquer it yourself?
Well, it's a pattern of behavior, and it's and a lot of times we're immersed in environments that aren't supportive of our
Mm-hmm.
goals and our dreams, and whether it be the parent that said you're terrible, or and
Oh,
and it blows my mind when I work with people, the wounds that people have
right.
growing up, or a
Mm-hmm.
teacher that kicked them out of chorus when they were 8 years old and said you can't say, like, how do you even know when you're 8? You don't know when
Precisely.
you're 8, really and truly.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to explore these things. There are tips and tricks, and I can give you. There's a couple of things that I do. One of the things that I learned to embrace, I love humor, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little bit of, I have a dry humor, a little bit dry and witty, right? Humor. And that's, and I, when I, and I was told, stop laughing, stop, why are you giggling? Well, it's funny. Life is funny. And when I say
Of
funny,
course.
I'm not over here giggling in a silly way, but I do find ironies in life in general. So
Mhm.
listen, if I didn't laugh at myself on stage, I would run away, hiding my face because of all the things that have happened. I mean, I've had people dropped on my head. I've been hit by emus on the stage. I've gotten my costumes caught
Whoa.
under things. I had my wig
Oh,
fall off one
oh
time.
no, of
So,
course.
but you start just laughing at these things
Right.
because it's just part of the experience in itself, and
Right.
learning
Hmm.
how to be resilient, be stronger than the challenge that's presented for you. These are all things, and I really dive into them when I work one-on-one with people.
Of course.
I really dive into specifically what holds the individual back, because it is different for every single person.
Of course.
And yeah, and I discovered I'm actually a healer, and I never thought of
Oh
myself
wow.
as a healer, but I always thought of myself as a singer, a performer, and a
Hmm.
speaker, right? That's
Hmm.
what I do. But what I discovered working with one-on-one with people is that it's a process of peeling back those things that they've put into place,
Right.
right? And they've
Hmm.
told themselves this year after year after year of their life. And you got to peel that back. Like, you have to do that. You have to put something new in place. And then here's the key. Then you have to
Yes.
take action. All right. And
Mm-hmm.
I work with people by taking action and putting it into practice. So that's how you embody it, is
Right.
by doing it. You have to
Exactly.
do it. You have to make mistakes. You have to
Right.
learn from those mistakes. You have to persevere,
Hmm.
and you have to keep moving forward.
Almost it's like a fear of mistakes. We hate
It is.
making mistakes, but
Yeah.
we have to allow ourselves to make those mistakes. I mean, as a performer, Julia, 15,000 hours as a Cirque du Soleil, you mentioned a lot of those mistakes, and you're making those mistakes in probably one of the biggest stages in the world. And
Right.
if you can embrace those mistakes, and we should be able to embrace our mistakes too, because they're not there. They're not. I think part of what I like to say about mistakes is, or what I was told, what I was taught is, those mistakes aren't who you are. They're just there to make you better.
That's right.
And I love that you are teaching that to for others, for them to overcome, because if we take everything too seriously, like the mistakes that we make, I don't think we'll ever be able to accept the good parts of us, because we're always focusing on the wrong parts. We're always focusing on the errors. Julia, you also mentioned the defining strengths of Olympic athletes. You've trained and you've worked with them before as well, and public speakers, comparing both strengths. How does training a world-class athlete compared to preparing someone for the stage or a public speaker? What would be the difference be? And having an experience of working with both, are there similarities, and what would be significant differences?
Well, there are similarities, particularly with people who have that champion mindset, and that really
Mm.
is the key to the really successful performers, speakers,
Uh-huh.
CEOs. And I
Uh-huh.
work with a lot of different people, authors, Olympic athletes,
Right.
world
Mhm.
class Cirque performers. It starts here. It starts
Right.
here. They don't
Mhm.
give up. Okay. They
Mhm.
don't give up. Number one. Number two, they do it because they love it. And this is something
That's
that I
it.
found to be
That's
very
it.
interesting,
Uh-huh.
that really shakes out the amateurs from the pros, is that they
Mhm.
are focused, but they're focused on the art itself. Okay. The art of being a gymnast, the art of being a piano player, the art of being a thought leader in the world.
Mhm.
And they're focused and they are driven. All
I
right.
see. I see.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I want to make a point here. It's not, and this is going a little bit back to the mistakes we were talking about, but it's not
Please.
always about who's the best looking person in the room or the most talented. It's not always about that, right? A lot of times it's really about the freak is fabulous thing I was talking about.
Right.
It's
Mhm.
about that ability to stand out. It's when people start to notice something about you. And a lot of times with Olympic athletes, with high first class performers, there's a grit about them that you
Right.
just know. You
I
just
love that.
know that
It's true.
they're not going to lose no matter, hey, they make a mistake, they're still winning.
That's it.
They
That's
come
it.
in third place, still winning.
It's having that attitude, right? Because you're a winner. You bring that attitude. You're a winner no matter what. You bring
That's
that
right.
into your life, and you bring that into your performances. And Julia, this is fascinating, of course. And of course, you teach this. You have what you call your 6-step method.
I do.
Without truly getting into that, all of that, because of course, our audience and listeners need to go check out your website, grab a call with you, consult with you to find out what this 6-step method is. But to give us a little bit of an idea, if conquering stage fright, or bringing out the best in us in when it comes to performance, if conquering stage fright is like taming a wild animal, which of your 6-step method, which of those 6-step method would be the whip, and which one would be the chair?
Wow, what a great question for me. So the whip.
Mhm.
The whip is going to be the coach. That's me. No,
That's
I'm kidding about that.
Why
I'm
not? I
joking.
mean, the tamer is they put you
I
in line, they get you in line. Why not?
Well, I'm a caring coach. I say
Mhm,
I'm caring, but listen, I'm not for everybody because I will light you up. All right.
mhm,
I will tell
mhm,
you the straight and narrow of it and keep
mhm,
you on the straight and narrow if you're committed. And if you're
mhm.
not, then I'm
It's
not
just
either.
not a fit. That's it.
Yeah, like because I like to work with really committed, really driven people who know who they may be beginners. That doesn't matter. I have beginners. It's
Uh-huh.
not about if you're a beginner or you're far along. It's how bad
Yes,
do you want something.
of
That's what
course,
it
of
is.
course. That's very
As
important.
far as the whip, though, I would say the whip is the preparation that you have to
Hmm.
do to get yourself ready, and that requires um, the commitment is. And I have found that for performers, and I've even talked to them and done research on this. The number one problem they have is fear and stage fright, and the number two problem, commitment.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, wow. Of
I hear,
course,
and they admit it outright.
of
How
course.
motivated are you? A 10. How committed are you? 3.
Oh, wow. Imagine,
It's
imagine.
it blows my mind. I'm like, well,
It
how
is
can
mind
you?
blowing.
Yeah, how can you be motivated and inspired, but
Hmm.
then you're not committed? Then it's not going to. Then you're not going to achieve what you want to achieve. So
That's true.
that whip has to be the things that I help people put in place to
Hmm.
get themselves ready to go
Hmm.
on the stage.
I
The
love that.
chair is going to be what I like to call the resilience and mindset part of it. That's what's going to hold you up.
That's
Because if
it.
you don't have that in place, the first time someone comes in and goes, they just talk too much, you're gonna crumble.
That's
Right.
it. That's it.
And you can't allow that to happen, because this is one thing I say about that is that if you don't
Hmm.
have trolls, then you are not out there enough.
Okay, that's true. That's very true. I mean, if you don't, it goes back to mistakes, right? If you don't have those mistakes, you're not out there enough. That's just the point of
Yeah.
it all. But I love how you said commitment. Imagine not being committed to Cirque du Soleil, where you're jumping trampolines, you're throwing yourself out into the air. How do you do it without commitment? And I think that is mind
Yeah.
blowing. That part is important. But of course, with stage fright as well, and public speaking is also important, because how do you put yourself out there in public speaking when you're not committed? You're just going to fall flat. You're always going to be thinking about the mistakes that you're going to be making. I love it. Of course, our audience and listeners can find out more about the 6-step method and everything else about Julia Langley and what she teaches on her website, julialangley.com. Julia, where else can we find you? Would love to learn more and keep up with your life.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I do have a new community that has just opened up on
Mm-hmm,
the school
mm-hmm.
platform. It is called Bold and Confident Voices. So this is going to be for, and it's let me say this, it's a free
Okay.
community. This doesn't cost anything for anybody to come in and join. And there will be
Yeah.
there's a lot of value that is we're adding in. I just opened up this community 2 weeks ago. So
All
anyone that joins is
right.
going to be on the ground floor of
Uh-huh.
that. But
Mhm,
the thing about it is that I'm putting in some courses, some for free, things you can go in
mhm.
and grab that require no money to do
Uh-huh.
just a little bit of effort. That's all. Just going in
Mm-hmm.
there and just becoming part of the community, and tips, tricks. And then of course I will be offering some weekly voice technique classes. I've got some
Wow.
music theory classes that are
Wow.
going in because I'm a
Oh, that sounds
classical
also cool. Oh my gosh.
musician. Yeah, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
classical
Mm-hmm.
musician. And we will be putting speaking tips as well as just some processes and different things that people can embody and use. I mean, and that's where the commitment comes in, because when someone is putting stuff out there for you for free, you grab it. You grab what
Absolutely.
you can, right? Yeah.
Julia,
And
those are all very lovely. Where can you find this community? Where can we learn more about it?
well, let me drop that link. Is there a place I can can I put the link in the, is there a chat?
For sure. Drop me the link. We'll make sure we'll put it up on the description. We'll exchange that. Absolutely. We'll make sure our audience and listeners get them. It'll be up on the description, on the video, and on the podcast description as well. Julia, you've been very lovely. I love the energy, and of course, I love the insight. The insight into performance is something unique. I've never had a guest talk about it in that angle. Of course, and a guest from Cirque du Soleil is always wow. Like the performance aspect of it is just mind blowing to me, and you have brought us that insight today. That is just, I don't think we could find that anywhere else. And Julia, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming onto the show.
Well, it's been my pleasure talking with you. It's something I'm passionate about, and I love sharing it and meeting new people. So please reach out to me. I hope your guests and your audience will reach out.
Go check out Julia, julialangley.com. She's on Instagram as well. Cirque Singer Jules on IG. Go find her everywhere else on the socials. And of course, go watch out for that link towards the end on the description as well. Julia, thank you so much.
Thank you.
To all our audience and listeners out there, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Thank you for watching. We will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
All right, so here's the thing. We try to get a little bit better every day, but we can't do it without you. So if you like the video, make sure to like and subscribe below. And if you have any comments, just leave them in the space under.